All righty. We are getting ready to go live here. Check some stuff here. All right. Let's see here, just making some adjustments to make sure we are good to go. Looks like we are live. If you can help me out here, if you are seeing me live on your feed, if you can please comment what city, state, region you are in, it will help me make sure I am reaching everybody and we are good to go. It will help me. All righty. And we are getting ready to embark here on day 3 of the 5-day AI challenge. An exciting day as we'll be jumping into sales. So let me know where in the United States or outside of the United States you are streaming in from. And you could also include by now maybe the progress you've had with getting everything set up from day 1 and day 2. Go ahead and jot that down as well, where you're from, and then the progress you've had from day 1 and day 2. And that'll help us really gauge where we need to maybe give you that boost or that extra support as we take on the sales and prospecting part of what we'll be doing today. So let's go ahead. Got some comments streaming on in here. Let me see what we got here. You are more than welcome to, if you have not yet, to join in on the live Zoom link, or as well as the Facebook business page, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are most comfortable and it's convenient for you is where we want you to be. And as we are collecting some new friends joining on, I'll give it another minute here. Please jot down in the chat, whichever chat you're in, where in the world you're from, city, state, region, whatever you prefer sharing. And then also share, what is your progress? Where are you at when it comes to day 1, day 2? Are you returning back from being a participant in a previous challenge and you want to just grab an extra coat of structure, support, and that's why you've returned? That'd be great to see. And if you have not joined the Facebook group yet, please make sure you make your way to the Facebook group and fill in all the questions that it has listed there so we can get you on in there. There's a whole other community in that Facebook group of amazing people that are there to help you, encourage you, but also really validate that if you put the time in and the work in, the results come right from it. All right, so we're gonna kick this off here, and let me share my screen here. And what we're going to be touching on today is day 3. And from time to time as we do these challenges, we find that a lot of new friends join us in the middle of the challenge. So they'll find out the challenge because of the feed, the recommendations from the feed. We'll say, hey, you should check this out, or hey, watch this video. And as they're in the middle of the challenge, they're like, well, what is this all about? How do I get involved? So if you're one of those folks that are just jumping in the middle of our challenge, this is how you get involved on our next 5-day AI challenge. The platform we're using is called High Level, or better known as Go High Level, aka GHL. You can make your way over to gohighlevel.com/5DC offer to redeem your 30-day free trial to the platform. And with that free trial, you'll also receive access to the membership course, where it has all the collaterals, the trainings, and the live videos that you could refer back to. In order to participate, you will need an account because we will be in the system and you will be asked to do certain things in the system. And for those of you that are existing account holders, we welcome you for tuning in. This challenge really complements maybe looking at the software from a different lens. So, maybe you're using the software for email marketing, for social media, maybe for organization with the CRM. But what this challenge allows you to do is to really position and help others understand how AI, along with live chat, can fuel the business for success. And we do a combination of that in showing you how to set up the service from scratch, and then how to go ahead and get the benefits from that service set up by looking at maybe the KPIs that you've established that we recommend, and really bring that automation to your customers. So if you're up for a challenge, this is the one to take. And if you're up to learning about AI, you're in the right place. So as we move on here, this is our agenda for today. It's revolving all around prospecting and sales. And the first takeaway we want to tackle here is, how do we get in front of a prospect? And there's so many different ways to do this. We've put together some steps that are attainable from a virtual perspective as well as an in-person perspective. So you get to pick which adventure you want to take. The next is, what do we say once they engage? Whether we're meeting them at a networking event, whether we're meeting them at a office hours, small Zoom gathering, or in person, where do we take it from once they engage with us? And then third is how to start closing those relationships into customers, right? How do we earn their trust as well as get them implemented into your ecosystem of the AI live chat assistant offer, and set the right expectations so they're happy and they're referring others. And by the end of this live session, you'll pretty much know everything you'll need to complement what you know now about starting relationships. And if you're new to networking or starting new relationships from a sales perspective, we'll help you with that as well. Because not everyone is selling or has experience selling. So with that being said, it's important that we get into a little bit of the framework. So I've jotted some notes down because it's so important that I share this as detailed, but not to the point where it gets overwhelming, right? Because if it's overwhelming for you as the student, this process could also be overwhelming for the person that you're speaking with for the first time about their business. So when we talk about the conversation, we want to have a conversation with 4 phases. And as you can see here, we have phase 1, which is pretty much the story phase. Phase 2 is talking about numbers. Phase 3 is the conditions. And phase 4 is the decisions. And personally, I've never been a fan of rigid sales scripts. I've never really been a fan of reading word for word on something, because I just felt like it was not me. But over time, I've found a way that I can take a sales script or a sales framework, add my personality and genuine interest to it, and make it easy for the person that may not know what I do or how I can help understand it in a structured format. And the key thing is structure. Sometimes when we have conversations, maybe with our friends, neighbors, colleagues, maybe they're on the whim. Maybe they're kind of about a bunch of different things. But when you're meeting somebody for the first time or the second time, and you're going to be preparing to get into positioning a software or a program or a process, they need to really fully understand so they can make that educated decision. So if you follow my view on this, let me know if you feel the same way. Do you lean on scripts, and are you more of a person that likes to go with scripts when planning a conversation? Or do you prefer to take a script and make it your own, but with the core agenda of that script as part of the guide? Go ahead and throw that in the comments. Let me know how you feel about that, because there are 2 sides to it. The script is so powerful when understood why it's there. And that's what we want to do with our prospect, is let them understand why this is important, whether they know it or not yet. All right. So we have a handful of folks still checking in where they're from, which is awesome. Thank you. If you've used a script before, word for word and memorized it word for word, and that's how you prefer to maybe position a product, let me know if that's your style, or if you prefer to grab the core items of the script and add your own personality to it. Let me know if that's what you prefer as well. And as we get into this, our goal is really to practice this enough where it becomes second nature. And as you practice this enough with enough business owner folks, you'll find that you'll switch it up and adjust things based on their niche, their industry, their experience, their pain points, their past types of ways they've done business or marketing. And that's important because the conversation should be geared around them. So as we get into this, I want to share what we call this here. We call this the bridging the gap system, right? We're bridging the gap between what they may or may not know about us and our software, our white label software. And we're going to do so by understanding what they're doing now, their story, their way of doing business. So we're bringing both together. So I want to jump into the first part of this framework, and that is the story phase. And the purpose of the story phase is to allow both you and the prospect to familiarize with each other's business backgrounds. So an example is this: let's say I meet a chiropractor. I meet a chiropractor at a networking event. We have a great conversation. And in that conversation, she says, look, and I've been looking for someone to help me with marketing. I gather a little bit of information and we set up a time to go into it further, right? As we set up that time to go into it further, we'll then have that one-to-one time. And this is where it's important for me to recap maybe what we spoke about at the networking event or at the online meeting, and then understand about her practitioner experience. How long has she been a chiropractor for? Maybe how long has she had an office for, right? What kind of patients does she prefer to work with? Is she a specialist? Is she a generalist, right? And as you understand a little bit about the practitioner, in this example, the chiropractor, their business, their office, how it's structured, who they serve, their specialties, it really gives you a big picture of maybe some of the gaps that are in that business at the moment, right? And that's what we want to be able to do is as we're listening, we're jotting down notes and identifying any gaps, right? And then as we get into that, we're able to start asking the prospect questions, right? So, think about you're in a conversation with someone that you just really meet for the first time in a professional setting. And in that professional setting, they then say to you, they ask you a bunch of questions. You're like, hey, where are you from? What do you do? Oh, do you have this? Do you have that? You're going to be put off a little bit because it's like, all right, we're going to get right to the point, I guess. We want to make sure that this phase one of the conversation smoothly jumps into phase two, which is going to get into more personal business operation topics. So as we're in phase one right now, asking a question like, what's your story? What got you into what you're doing now? Could you tell me a little bit about, the passion and the interest that you had in chiropractic care? And that'll open up the doctor to then share their personal story. And then as you're listening and taking notes, you're then asking questions around that and then moving into other questions like, how did you start the business? Did you start off as a solo practitioner? Were you part of another office? How did you get to where you're at now? And then that will start to open up additional details around their business evolution. And I just want you to think about this, as you're meeting somebody and having a business-oriented conversation, right? They understand that you obviously are going to present something that's going to help their business. It's how you go through that flow that makes them open to listening and wanting to do business with you. Because first and foremost, people are doing business with a human being, because if they weren't, they would have purchased what you have to offer online, right? So if you agree that, right, you can have all the scripts, you can have all the frameworks, but if you're not natural, you're not listening, you're not genuine, you're not interested in what they're about or what their story consists of, you're not going to really get anywhere past asking a few questions than the meeting ending, right? So if you agree with being that human element as the core, let me know if we're on the same page. And I believe, some people want to go straight to business. I've been there. I like to go straight to business, but maybe you are more of the rapport builder, right? So if you want to get straight to business, we need to add a little bit of the rapport builder to it. And if you're more of the rapport builder, we need to add the transition into the next steps of doing business together based on the pain, the problem, and the observations of you as the expert or specialist with, helping businesses grow. Awesome. Great. Got a few folks here responding. This is fantastic. Okay. So, as we're getting into this, we want to remember one thing. This is all about them, right? So in this example, the conversation that I have is all about the chiropractor. And I want to just facilitate some questions, and I want to listen as a majority and guide them to feel comfortable with opening up, right? So if somebody were to say to me, oh, I, opened up practice in 1992, and they just stop there, it is my responsibility, or in your case, you're my counterpart doing, the questioning as well with a prospect, it is your responsibility to say, well, can you tell me a little bit more how that started? Or what made you go fully, all in on opening up your own practice? Like sometimes you got to get a little bit more context around the answer, because they may think that you may not want to hear the full story, or they may not feel comfortable sharing the whole story. So you want to lead in with additional questions around that topic if they answer shortly. And this allows them the floor. This allows them to feel that it's about them and that everything you're collecting is going to be used to help them, not to be used against them. And that's that's the guard that business owners typically have, is that they don't want to share so much because it may be thrown in their face, right? And if you see it from my point of view, where if you talk to somebody and you share like maybe some things that are not going the best for you, and they say, well, that's why things aren't going the best, like that could really put your guard up, right? So if you've been there where you've shared something personal or maybe something tough and it's been put back in your face, that's what I want you to think about with your prospect. It's got to be a safe zone with them where they're comfortable. And that's typically over some time of rapport, hearing your tonality, and the genuine feel that they get based on the questions you ask. And as you're asking these questions, you're really giving them full control by using silence as the green light to tell me more, right? Unless they stop, after one sentence. Listening is a sign of I'm interested. And that's what we want to share. We're interested in what you have going on in your business. And if I've done right, or done the way that it's designed to be done, you'll notice the engagement will increase, the smiles, the willingness to share more, and a little bit of a debate or a little bit of a pushback will happen, which means that that prospect is very comfortable with chatting business with you. And that's the overall goal. Your potential customer needs to be comfortable with your business skills, knowledge of their industry and what you offer, for them to tell more and more about what they're going through. And that starts to evolve into the next phase, which is numbers. So phase one, maybe it's about 15 minutes, right? Think about putting something in the microwave for a minute, right? And you're waiting by their microwave for a minute. It may feel more than a minute, even though it's just a minute, right? So you may, as you start to do more of these conversations, you will get a feel of where you're at time-wise, but you don't want to spend 30 minutes just on phase one because they may have a busy business. They may have other appointments. So you don't want to be by up to like phase two and they say, oh, well, I just noticed the time. I got to run, right? You want to set that expectation that we have 45 minutes blocked out. I want to ask you some questions to learn about your business, learn about you, see where I can fit, share a little bit about me. And now you're keeping an eye on that clock to be respectful of their time, but also to stay on schedule with your time. So setting the agenda is very, very important from the start. So as we get into the numbers phase, this is a very touchy part of the conversation. So building good rapport is obviously key here. This is where you'll be talking a little bit about maybe some KPIs they have in place to track success in their business. So maybe, some of those KPIs might be topics around how many new patients per week, what is their retention patient rate, maybe around what is the average patient's billing, right? How do they go about offering additional services? How much of those patients do additional services at the office? So with phase two, you do want to have a blend of, right, direct, educated questions, but also listen and pivot as needed so they don't feel that you're prying into their personal information. And here's like a sign where that you may not have earned the trust yet. And that'll be around something like this. Let's say you say, hey, doc, could you tell me a little bit about how many patients you bring in a week? And what is their maybe average billing, right? Is it, by adjustment? Is it by packages? What does that look like? And they may say to you, John, I'm not comfortable sharing that, especially I don't want that information to get in the wrong hands, right? So if somebody tells you something like that, don't take it personal. Just take it as a sign that you might have to backtrack a little bit by doing two things. One, pivot from that question. And two, just reassure them that the reason why you're asking this is to put together a strategy that is custom to what their business demands, right? And that really allows you to kind of like start over without saying, hey, I'm sorry, this may have come off the wrong way, right? We need to do like an unofficial restart. And typically that explanation of why gets that restart going, okay? If you understand that part of the example that I shared, go ahead and let me know your thoughts. If there was something in phase two so far that you're not understanding or that maybe you need some more clarity on, go ahead and jot that down as well. But what I just went over was a sign that someone may not just be jiving with you yet. And the opposite of that is someone that is jiving with you. And they may say something like, John, I really don't know those numbers. And I know we see a lot of folks, we do very well, but I don't know the exact number. And this is an opportunity for you now to be in response and say, well, doc, well, congrats on doing well, right? Like there's always many other options that are out there. But it sounds like based on what you're sharing with me, you don't handle that directly hands-on. Would that be an office manager that oversees that? Would that be someone else on your staff that oversees that? And then maybe that doctor then says, yes, that would be Jane. Jane oversees that. She's my practice manager. Great. Right? So now you jot down Jane's name, you jot down her title. That's somebody at some point that we need to refer back to for a few reasons. And a few of those reasons are, one, she's going to end up being one of the users in the software. So she'll need to know what to do and make sure everything's accustomed to her day-to-day operation. Two, she'll have some more information on the actual numbers. So that way we can set our KPIs, our before, our after, our checkpoint details, because we want to be able to show progress in the upward direction. And that usually is based off of knowing where they started. And there may be some other softwares that Jane may be using to piece everything together. The doctor doesn't really know the numbers, right? And that's revenue, that's business, operational details. If they don't know that by hand, they may not know like what else is being used for the day-to-day operation. They truly may have the privilege of just focusing on patients, which is great. Those are types of clients that we want. They're great at what they do, they love what they do, and they automate and delegate different tasks within their team. We'll fit right into that, especially with our AI live chat executive assistant offer, right? So as we're understanding that, maybe we uncover in phase 2 the few people that we didn't know existed before when it comes to revenue, processes, and KPI questions. And asking, those types of questions can look similar to something like this. So, we're in this phase 2 part of the conversation. I'll say, Doc, could you tell me a little bit about the seasonality of your practice? Do you find that because of your location and where you are and the types of patients you serve, that the summer months are busier because you specialize in sports related treatments and the students are back from college or they're in camps and their parents are able to care for those types of services during this time off from school? And then doc might say, that's exactly, yeah, we are busiest in the summer for those reasons. And that's a great sign when they agree with you with great energy and tempo, because now you can pivot that into, could you tell me what are the slower months? What are those slower months? And what is really the difference between the busy and the slow? And although you could assume it's that the kids are not in, there's less college students or whatever the case may be, you always want to hear it from the prospect directly, so they also hear themselves say it, right? So there's obviously some psychology in sales, right? And process and organization here. But without going too deep into a methodology or the exact way of doing it, you want to just ask questions that are bringing out the facts of where we can jump in and help, right? So as we go through that flow, we then get into a little bit about the services that they want to offer more of. And those are typically services that maybe they have the right amount of staff to handle it. Maybe they have 4 chiropractors there to handle adjustments and chiropractic care. Maybe they have cold therapy, they have acupuncture therapy, physical therapy, and they don't have enough volume to support the staff they have. So we want to understand a little bit about their services and then spend a minute or two to find what's going great about that service and what do they hope for to go better. So if we start talking about, let's say we ask a question about physical therapy and the physician says, I wish we had more patients for physical therapy. A lot of our patients are going to so-and-so place or so-and-so other place. And then you can now ask a question around, well, why do you think that is, doctor? And then you listen to the answer and you'll start to uncover clues around areas that you may have control to make better, or you may have no control to make better. Or maybe they'll realize something is off based on sharing the answer to that question that maybe they weren't asked about or they never thought of it that way. So really, you want to use this phase two as a workshop time frame of really understanding what keeps the business open and what would keep the business from growing if things don't change, right? And I believe once you start to, this may be a little rusty the first, second, third time, but you'll notice that as you talk to more business owners, it starts to become more easy to flow, but also you become more strategic. You start asking better questions. And that's the powerful part. It's the questions you ask that bring the realization and the opportunity to the forefront. Okay. But again, I want to repeat that never be the first to ask about finances. Never be the first to ask about, are you profitable, right? Do you have, is the business making the money that you want it to make? Right? Those are they're very like direct questions that could really throw somebody off if they're doing great or if they're not doing great, right? That's like, asking somebody, hey, what's your credit limit on your credit card? Or, hey, what's your credit score? What? Why would you ask me that? What do you care? Right? So you want to make it as a professional, and that's asking questions around the way they do business, right? And this approach starts to transition the conversation from general business operations to specific financial aspects of the business. And it's done smoothly without being intrusive, right? And that's how we really start to develop that additional trust that we need to do business with them and for them to do business with us, right? And as we evolve into phase three, this is really where you should really start feeling the confidence, right? Maybe at this point, by phase two, we're with them maybe 20 minutes by now. We're with them for about 20 minutes. And 20 minutes is a long time when you're meeting with someone about their business, and they maybe don't know you well enough. So it is, give yourself the credit that 20 minutes is a good time frame to be in that conversation. And if you get shut down sooner, well, then know that you just have some improvement to be made during the phase one portion of the conversation before you jump into phase two. All right. So as we get into phase three, conditions, the objective of this particular part is to ensure that the products, services that we offer, our service offering, is a good fit for that business and the market that they serve. Right? So, with any of our 5-day challenges, there are typically features that everyone and anyone would need when communicating with a business, right? So in this particular one with the AI reception chat, this one, based on what they do and who they serve, answering questions and providing resources around appointment scheduling, insurance, accepting certain insurances, services that are offered. The AI chat widget assistant is going to help answer those questions on their behalf. So it's super customer friendly. So we're not going to really have a problem with any product market fit or any reason why they wouldn't want this. They just need to understand how it's going to help them. So in this part of the conversation, you want to maybe explain and share examples of the way some practitioners do business now, which is pen, paper, walking in, phone call, fax, right? And then share how in that industry, let's just use chiropractic care or medical practicing, for now that things have gone electronic. They have gone virtual, right? Like different virtual services. They have gone digital, right? And that didn't happen overnight. Well, a lot of practices now are transitioning to live chat, assisted chat. So we want to showcase that they are not the first to do this, but they are part of a bigger group of physicians that are adopting it because the patient expects fast answers, quality answers when making their decisions, right? And this it starts to click at this point because now they're like, okay, let me think about how I did business. I do that myself. I ask a question, whether it's with an airline, through a chat, whether it's through my cell phone service, through a chat, an app. We're communicating through chat some way, somehow in our day to day. So reminding them that they use this on a day to day, whether they realize it or not, their patients will expect that experience as well, especially if there are others using it. And if there are not others using, they'll be the innovator. They'll be the first to set the standard in their area. But if they feel that no one's using this and they don't have an innovation mindset or interest, then they're going to use that no one else uses it, or they believe no one else uses it as a reason not to do it, right? So if you've experienced the use of AI chat assistant, whether it's in an app, maybe your insurance app or insurance website, if it's maybe paying a bill, credit cards, airlines, anywhere, go ahead and throw in the chat where you experienced that chat experience and how was it? Did you get the answers you need? Was it resourceful? Was it helpful? Did it save you an hour or 15 or an extra 20 minutes from waiting on hold? Throw that in the chat. Okay. And it's important because you'll need to use these examples with the person you're meeting with. One thing around phase 3 to keep in mind is that storytelling is a great source of fuel for the conversation, right? Sharing your experiences. Maybe the person you're meeting with now is your 4th prospective client, but you've already had a beta with 3 others. Maybe you've sold 2 others and you have 1 beta, and this one is just somebody who you're looking to bring on either or, right? Or maybe you saw some stories or some examples of success in the Facebook group or online, and you're resharing those stories. But really painting the visual perspective in their imagination of, think about this, doctor. It's 11:30 at night. I, as your potential patient, have horrible aching back pain. Okay? Horrible aching back pain. And I don't want to go to the emergency room. I can stick it out, put some icy hot on my back, but I'm going on Google and I'm looking up chiropractors in my area. Now, I've never been to a chiropractor, but someone in my family says that you should go to a chiropractor. That's like the back pain, back doctor, they're the best to go, right? So I'm looking up one, don't know where to look or what to ask, but I do know at the bare minimum that I want to go to somebody that accepts my insurance, right? So I'm going online, I'm looking for information about insurance. I don't see anything visibly clear. It says call our office for insurance. But then this chat button pops up and it welcomes me, says, hi there, welcome. How may we help you? And I automatically assume that it's just, a robot, right? And I ask, do you accept insurance? Right? I just cut right to the chase. Do you accept insurance? The robot does like its little loading thing, and it says, yes, comma, we do. As a matter of fact, you can visit this site and see if your insurance is on our list. And if it's not, we also include on this page what the out-of-pocket will be. Right? And as that consumer, that prospective patient, the person in pain, I stop my search because either one, I know they accept my insurance, or two, I know it's a reasonable fee to get myself checked out at the bare minimum. And as you explain that to the doctor or the person, in this case, the chiropractor that I'm talking about, it should visually click because they don't have that now. We've shared an experience, and then they put themselves in that experience. And based on what their specialty is or what that patient, how important that patient is to them with their business model and everything that they do, yeah, that actually is a great idea. I never thought of that. I never knew that existed. I never knew that existed. And that's a great aha moment and say, Doc, I get it. A lot of folks don't know, but there are also a handful that do. And that's the benefit of being cutting edge, right? When you have a network, a circle, trusted advisors that you can lean on to learn about different things that are out in the market, that gives you the cutting edge advantage for your practice and your patients. So that example alone, I hope, paints a clear of why you should have this type of feature on your website and how it's ongoing learning with you as you feed it the updated information, right? And now doctors like, okay, I see what you mean. Tell me more. Or they might position into, well, how much does it cost? It's probably really expensive. And if you get if you get either of those responses, they're both good signs. If somebody's jumping right to price, well then, acknowledge that you heard their question, but advise them that you just need a couple more questions to be sorted through with them so you could best package based on the needs of the business. So if somebody were to say, well, John, this sounds great. How much is it? Like, I need to know how much it is. I might say something like, Doctor, I agree, right? Obviously, the cost is important. I just have a few more questions to iron out the right strategy that we're going to position for your office. And as we uncover some of those details that I'll need, I can ensure you that I have different options that should fit. One should fit your budget. But for me, what's most important is the function you require for it to really do its job as intended. So let me jump into this next question, Doc, and then we can get right back to pricing. Sounds good? All right, cool. And then now you've acknowledged, you've explained, and now you've taken control of that conversation in good intent to bring them to the finish line where they want to be, which is how much and how soon can we get this going? And, the reason why we don't want you to get right into the money when they ask for the money is because if you truly don't have a clear understanding of the business and you accept money or you accept, if they accept your offer of whatever package you give to them right off the bat, and you're not ensuring there's a proper fit, that'll lead to issues later, right? So maybe, because you haven't really understood how they want to use this, or maybe they have some other interest now of using the product a certain way, maybe the AI won't be able to do that. And in their mind, for the price you gave them, it should do that and more. So that's why we want to get a full understanding of where we're at and what they're buying and what they need, right? So with phase 3 conditions, is that clear? Is there something that I'm not, maybe giving you a full understanding about? Or if it's crystal clear, that's fine. What's a takeaway from phase 3, right? Let me know what your takeaway is from phase 3 or how you would apply it, maybe with an example question to somebody to understand that product market fit. Throw that in the chat here. Awesome. So now we're at about, let's say in phase 3, we're at about that 35-minute mark. right? In a perfect world, about that 35, 38-minute mark, right? And by now, you should feel that as you go through every phase, you've earned more of their trust. You've built more credibility. You are more respected as the authority in your field. They trust you. They're getting to know you. They like you, right? All of this matters, whether it's for a $97 product, $197, $997, or $19,997, right? People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust that have their best interest at hand, right? And that's the important part. And if we're completing phase 3, you're doing an amazing job. And again, it's okay if you don't get through this smoothly each and every time, but you have to have the conversations so you could perfect it, right? So we're going to jump into phase 4, and that's obviously the decision-making phase, right? And the focus here is now how to understand how the prospect typically makes business decisions. So what does that look like? What does that sound like? What do we need to uncover, right? So typically in phase 1, you'll understand if there's partners involved, if there's a board of directors involved, if there is a bookkeeper that makes the final, writing of the check, whatever it is, you typically learn about that in phase 1 or 2, right? In between that area, you find out who those decision makers are. Not directly as in like, oh, if I were to do this, my bookkeeper would need to do it or my partner. You find out based on understanding who runs the business with them, right? So as we get to phase 4 of the decisions, we want to lead in with questions around, how would so-and-so feel about something like this compared to how you feel? And now you're able to see where the gap is between decision-making process. And that really allows you to see where the gap is and where you need to be prepared to walk them through or maybe get that person involved. Okay. Another way that sounds is something like, this is something that, my practice manager would need to see and do before I made a final decision. And, if you took that cue on earlier in phase 1 or phase 2, you would have known that you maybe have to pepper in some questions or some timelines or parts where they need to jump in, or you need to invite them in to discuss this with them. And all of this is important because nothing is going to happen with the exchange of money and business unless that person that they're referring to gives the green light, right? So as we're going through this process, asking questions like, Doctor, I know that you're running with patients all day, every day. Who in your office would be primarily responsible to handle this on your behalf? Whether it's training the feature, whether it's responding back, or whether it's just being involved with my team and I to make sure it's working the way it's designed to work. And now that doctor says, well, there's a few people, John, I'm glad you asked, because I can't make any decisions without them. Now, when you hear that, that might throw you off. You're like, what? I just spent 42 minutes with you. What do you mean that we can't do any decisions without them? Right? Or maybe it doesn't faze you, right? But it all depends on the experience of conversations that you have and your response to pivoting as needed. So if I was in that situation, which I've had happen, John, I love the idea. It sounds like an amazing tool, everything that we've been looking for, but I need my assistant and my office manager involved. They're not going to be around for 2 weeks. and I can't do anything until then, right? And there's just some things that are non-controllable. And you say, no problem, doc. Well, let's at least get the foundation set up, because at the end of the day, if I were to meet with them first, they would probably say that you needed to confirm all is well before making any decision. So in this case, it's just reverse. That's fine. I'm happy I met you first because I learned a lot, and I can strategize and customize this as it needs to be to best fit the needs. As we wrap up here, Doc, when you've purchased services in the past or products in the past, what are some things that you need to just make sure of before committing, right? And maybe that general question just maybe pivots them a little bit from the guard, right? So now you're given the permission to like share every potential hurdle, issue, objection that they may throw at you in advance. Well, John, I don't like contracts, and John, I'm not really a fan of giving people access to my information, and security is important to me, and I just don't want multiple systems, and I don't want to, give different things to different, like, let these all come out. And ideally, you're just taking notes. Okay, I understand. Completely okay. All right. And as you start to get all these objections, right, pick one or two to go a little bit more deeper in on. You're not going to be able to hit all of them, but pick at least one or two more to learn a little bit more about, so that way you're able to give them a sample of your expertise and that you understand how they do business, right? And typically, if you're working with any business owner that understands, right, the cost of doing business to business with others, they'll respect and appreciate that, as long as you keep your composure, you're patient, and you don't change your attitude because they didn't give you what you want. I've made that mistake, and I've seen others make that mistake where, we're super happy dandy, and then when we get like our first no, we're like, okay. Our second no, we're like, all right. And then our third no's like, I'm wasting my time. And then you give like this weird straight face, right? And you don't realize it. So you want to maintain your composure and know it's like a game of chess, right? You have to really, really be patient with the process. And so, in most cases, the customers that just have a little bit more loopholes are typically the ones that are the best customers. So use that as a sign as well. And as you start to understand how they do business, maybe they require you to go through a vendor process. We have a vendor process, John, and that vendor process requires ABC, right? So now you're ahead of that process. Well, John, we typically vet out 3 of any type of service that we're about to bring on. Okay, great. Who else did you have in mind? I can give you an analysis to put a comparison together for you. Right? And again, at the end of the day, if you've positioned yourself as the trusted advisor, the person that's the expert in their industry and understands their industry and how they do business, they're going to lead towards the human before the company right away. Right? They're going to lean towards you as a human being rather than the company or the competitor. So as you're putting all of these together and you really, really get the experience under your belt, this starts to work like clockwork for all the right reasons. One, you start to make great friends in your niche, your industry, in your area. 2, you start to understand more about business and about how their business or their industry works. Okay? You start to then understand the conditions, the demands, the competitors in that industry. And then lastly, you start to understand how these business professionals, whether it's they're in a specific industry, category, title, how they have processes in place to make these commitments. And that's the power of practice. Now, with this framework, you're giving it about 45 minutes of quality conversation, no more than 60 minutes, right? Maybe you last about 55 minutes, right? Or maybe you're at 60 minutes with a couple of interruptions, right? Someone walks in the office, they have to put you on hold. These things happen. But a good 45-minute solid conversation works many, many, many wonders with building know, like, and trust. And as you follow this structure, this bridging the gap structure, the conversation is effective, it's smooth. You're handling objections indirectly and directly. You're leading the prospect through a journey of knowing how they sound to others about their business, validating their numbers, right? Understanding what they may not know or what they need to know more of. And then where they're at, in their marketplace, and then, what's next to grow. And, there's two things that can happen. You either close the deal, you make the relationship before you leave, right? Because your gateway offer is competitive, it's maybe within their budget, or you make a good relationship that you can start to text. I mean, think about this. In an age of where we're in now with technology, cell phones, mobility, if you're texting someone, especially a physician, a chiropractor, a dentist, a busy business owner as a whole, well, then they have some interest in you, right? They have some interest in you because they could easily give you the main number or the email, and then days of no responses go by, or maybe no response ever. But if they're willing to be directly connected to you, that also means that you did an amazing job with building trust, credibility, and authority on how you can help their business. And that's what this bridging the gap with the 4 phases is designed to do. Set a foundation, whether it's for current agreement or future agreement to do business together. This one gets a little lengthy, this slide, but it's the foundation. It's the foundation because we need to make sure that this conversation's solid so the other conversations and the other parts of the process flow thereafter. If you have any questions about this process, or maybe you need some more clarity, guidance, you need some more help understanding it, share your feedback, share your questions in the chat. You can type in Q and your question, or you could just share your your 2 cents, your feedback, your knowledge. Right? Give everyone a minute there to jump on there. So with what we've discussed, we're going to get into the next phase of getting those conversations going, right? So the structure of the conversation is key, but now getting those conversations is even more important. On a daily basis, if this is your full-time hustle, right? You're building this full-time, you should have at least 10 to 15 conversations like this, like I shared, right? 10 to 15 conversations, or as much as you can to get practice to get up to 10 to 15 conversations. If you're new to this, you may not get past 3 or 4 smoothly because you're fumbling around, or maybe you're too direct, or there's, or that person's not available, right? Could be a bunch of different things: timing, availability, trust, knowledge, impressions, perception, right? But you have to have the goal in mind, and that is conversations, appointments. So let's talk about building your first sales script with AI reception feature as the focus, right? And what we're going to discuss here a little bit later in the program is the Dream 100. But before we get into that part, this script is for someone that you may already know, right? Maybe it's someone that you had a relationship in the past when it comes to serving them in another business capacity. Maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's a family friend, whomever it is. Pretty much someone that is familiar with you. They're not going to expect you to quote unquote sell them something, right? Or pitch me something. So this script here is this kind of flow. Hey, John, I wanted to reconnect with you regarding business, actually, and run a few things by you. I noticed you have a good reputation in the community with your services and products, right? And this is a script. This is a framework. Obviously, adding your tonality, your personality is key. So if I were to reword this, maybe I go with, hey, John, I've been seeing your Google reviews skyrocket since the last time I was by. Congratulations on all the success y'all have been having. What's new? Right? So I just reworded that first two sentences, right? And then, the second part of the sentence is going to be more of referral, right? Passing on, get in that flow of, I want to pass on a few people to you, or I would love to get some feedback on something I'm working on, right? So we're going to pivot from complimenting them to say, I would love to stop by when you're at the shop. Maybe it's a barber shop, maybe it's a bakery, whatever it is. I like to obviously learn what's new at the business, and then I would love to run something by you that I'm getting ready to launch publicly and see if you'd be open to experience it and give me some feedback. Right? And again, I use the script here in the second part, and now I'm just rewording it a bit. Right? And as I do that, I'm going to organically feel good about it, but also they're going to understand. This sounds like something John would say. This isn't, a robot sending me this, or this is too salesy, or what is he trying to sell me, right? We want it to be authentic and warm, fuzzy feeling, right? And the goal of this is to compliment, let them know that you've taken some time out of your day. You've noticed the obvious that they're getting great reviews. You've noticed the obvious that they have a new sign on their building. You've noticed the obvious that you've seen in the Facebook groups that everyone is talking about their meal or their what's going on right at their establishment. And it could be for any business, barbershop, restaurant, whatever it is. Just compliment where you, if challenged, they could say, oh, where did you see that or hear that from? Right? Imagine this. You say to somebody in this email or this text message, hey, John, I wanted to reconnect with you because I've been hearing a lot of great things about you. It's everywhere that you all are, doing amazing things. And I just wanted to say congratulations. But also while doing so, I wanted to share what I have going on, and I would love your insight and feedback on a program that I'm going to be launching to the public. Would you mind to connect with me? I love your insight on it, right? And, we jabble it up a little bit, we perfect it, autocorrect as needed, but you get the point, right? And let's say at that point they say, sure, comma, what did you hear and where did you see that? And if you just gave fluff, well, then you're going to have to go searching for where this was talked about, if it was talked about. But if it wasn't, you could even be proactive and grab a screenshot and share it in the email or the text as a visual. And that really becomes powerful because for a business owner, they're like, oh man, this guy, I haven't talked to him in a while. I remember when he used to work for so-and-so company, or I remember where, our kids used to be on the same team or whatever. Man, he really went out of his way. Like, people know when you go out of their way, right? They know when you go out of the way for them. So you want to make that like apparent. And that now becomes the engagement. And that really allows you, like, once you get this down packed, right, with the text message, the email, or even the phone call, right? That brings you to what we spoke about just before, which is the bridging the gap conversation phases, the 4 phases. So if I can send out 30, 40 of these types of inquiries, right? Broken up at a few a day or as many as possible, those will convert into responses in which I will lead into a 15-minute ask of time, and I'll earn the remaining 30 minutes from that 15. Right? But if I say, hey, I would love to have a 55-minute meeting with you or a 45-minute meeting with you, that screams sales pitch all day. And I'm not saying you need to hide the fact that you're going to offer something. All I'm saying is, right, let them know that you're a bit different than somebody who doesn't know them or somebody who doesn't really have a vested interest. Right? So, if you have 15 minutes, I'll earn the extra 30. But I wanted to take some time to share what I've seen, what I'm doing, and maybe how we could potentially pass on referrals to each other. And then this phase 1 through 4 kicks in. Now you have a relationship built. Now your cell phone, has 25 business owners that you've had 30 to 45-minute conversations with. And those business owners can be considered business owner friends. And now out of those 30 business owners, 5 become customers, 2 become maybe trial offers. And out of the 2 trial offers, each one refers 3 friends each because they were so amazed with what you had to offer and the service you provided. So what you're really doing at this point is building a network of folks that will share their experience with you to others. And it's really all about the delivery and the genuine and the patience that you show, so that way you can have the time for a 2-way conversation. Right? How does that sound to you? How does that sound to you? Do you believe that this framework, this strategy, this bridging the gap phases can help you have a smoother conversation flow that turns into appointments that eventually will turn into customers? And if you don't believe so, then share what you believe would help. I would like to know what you believe would be an alternative, so that way maybe we can fill in any gaps we have in this initial option of building those relationships. Awesome. Gary, Susan, Jojo, Larry, Tiffany, Denise, John, Doug, appreciate y'all. Susan, y'all rock. Thank you. Right? And Gary, like with your response, sounds like a plan. That's what we want them to feel and say. John, sounds like a plan. And there's going to be 1 or 2 things that happens, depending on your experience. You might slap yourself on the face and say, huh? Or you may say to yourself, that's exactly what I was hoping you would say, because I'm prepared to help you change the way you're doing business now to the way that your patients will love to do business with you, or whatever industry it is. Right? That's exactly what I was hoping for. And as you start reaching out to folks, it's all about the positive response and the spin-off. Right? It's all about the positive response and the spin-off. Right? How do you deal with lemons that you dealt with? Squeeze them. Right? So as we evolve in this conversation, by now we have a good starting point. We have our end result goal, which is a good 35 to 45-minute conversation with 4 phases that allow us to frame, support, comfort, and give everything we need for our potential customer to make a decision. We've reversed engineered that by saying, here's what we say Here's how we approach them, whether it's through text, phone, email, to get to that conversation point. And we're going to reverse engineer that another layer with our Dream 100. So when reverse engineering that with our Dream 100, we're still building on existing relationships. And you may not have 100 phone contacts. You may not have 100 people that you talk to or that you're familiar with on a personal level. And that's all fine. But I promise you that if you're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or any social media platform, that you at least have half of that in friends that you like, you comment, you follow, that you can go to their page, see something new that's going on, right? And if you don't have that, well, then my recommendation is to get in the areas where you can create those relationships. And one of those areas are in Facebook groups. One of those areas could be on the Nextdoor app, which is more of a community-based in your area app, depending on where you're at in the country and the region. Right? But being within somewhere where you live or you work is usually a great starting point on building out future relationships because you're frequently either in the area or familiar with the area. So let's just say, for this example here, you have a whole bunch of people that you have in your phone from previous business relationships that you've had, or friendships, or just a lot of business owners. Well, you want to create a list of those familiar contacts, right? Again, it's all about structure, right? If you don't train the brain to be structured and you don't put a solid plan in place of like just going through the process step by step, you're going to take shortcuts naturally. So we want to remove any shortcuts. So we ask you, jump on a spreadsheet or a notepad, whatever you prefer, create a list of people that you're familiar with. Obviously, people that you're most familiar with should go first. So start with the most familiar first. So maybe your first 10, you're the most familiar. Your next 10, you're familiar. Your next 10, you wish you were more familiar, but they at least know you. And the following 10 is that you met them through somebody else and you have exchanged the phone number at that point, or they somehow got on your phone and that is enough for them to be a familiar contact, right? But you want to start with the most familiar first. And prioritizing that based on that relationship really makes it great for you to have that conversation starter, okay? And the whole point of it is to initiate the personalized outreach using the example script I gave you, highlighting something obvious or something amazing that's going on in their business that you found online or took a picture of while you were on the road, right? And then saying that while doing so, top of mind, would you mind, us catching up, whether it's for a cup of coffee, a Zoom, whatever the case may be. You'll have to use your personality and how people in your area or in your country, your region, typically do business relationships. Some people do tea, some people do brunch, some people just do a phone call. It's different in all regions, in all areas, in all business classes. So figure that out so that way you're not a sore thumb. We want to be within, we want to be a chameleon. You want to do business how they do business. You don't want to put them out of their comfort zone so soon. And then as you're doing that, you're leaning in to ask them for advice and for some feedback. And then you're nurturing that relationship for potential resurgence of the conversation, right? So think about this, like even with our friends and family, let's say, you're chatting with somebody on text message and you're working and they send you a message back. There's a delay. You have a delay. There's this trend of delay, right? Because everyone's like doing something. But typically you pick up where you left off, right? I'm guilty of this, and maybe you are too. But when I continue a text message, I never say, hey, how are you? Or hey, how you been? Or, hey, sorry, I got tied up. I just go with my next question or my next thought. I pick up where I left off. Are you the same way? You may or may not be the same way, right? How do you handle how you pick up from a conversation, especially with someone that you're really familiar with, right? And you should keep that in mind when reaching out to these folks. Because maybe in your chat thread, when you reached out to them 6 months ago, they were getting prepared to have a new addition to their family, or maybe they just got a new service or a new piece of equipment, or they expanded their business. You can go back to your chat and see, oh my God, this is where we left off, and then continue from there, or through Messenger or WhatsApp or email, however those conversations have been had before. Picking up where you leave off is always a great sign of trust, right? It's always awkward to call somebody you haven't talked to in months, especially if you didn't have the best conversation the last time you spoke. If you and I are on the phone and we have a great, fun, great energy conversation, I say, hey, I got to run. I'm leaving. I'll get you call back. And I forget. We get busy. It's easier for me to say, oh my gosh, I just randomly thought of you. What we were doing, we were laughing. I'm sorry I never got back to you. How you been? What's new? Right? We pick up where we left off with our energy. And that's the goal of when we're working with business owners, we want to have that trust and relationship with them. Because if we don't, it affects our business relationship. Then they cancel our service to go somewhere else. Or they find that the service is no longer valuable because they don't have the relationship with you. So all of these play into factors. And there's some amazing sales trainers out there, amazing sales programs. What we're going over is just a foundation. You will need to make adjustments. You will need to work within your region and the way people do business. Results will vary, right? This is just a guideline of what the potential is. The examples I'm sharing are just for you to keep in mind of what could potentially come up. But one thing that is so powerful here, and we spoke about it a few times in a couple different ways, is being familiar to them. Them knowing who you are. Them being excited to hear from you. Because maybe you bring great energy. Maybe because you ask great questions. Maybe because you mention things or notice things that others don't. And your goal is not to do anything but nurture it, right? Because sometimes, business owners, successful business owners have radars on. Why is this person so nice? What's the catch? What do they want from me? I'm not donating to their team. I'm not donating to their cause, or I'm not, I've already donated. I'm already doing different things. I don't need any more business. I don't, like everyone has their guard. So you always want to lead with relationship first, because that'll allow you to express, share advice, and be their trusted advisor. If you're not going to do business with me, I'm okay with that. But as long as I'm in your phone contacts, and from time to time you reach out to me for advice, I just know it's a matter of time till we do business together. Rather you not reach out to me at all, or us not be connected on any social media or part of any of the same groups. And that's where we want to continuously build up our Dream 100. Now, when doing the Dream 100, you want to put on your list, obviously, the person's name, their phone number, and then their industry, right? And if you don't know their industry, just move on to the next one and you go back. But the reason why the industry is so important, because you might find some commonalities of 15 people in your contact list are bakery owners. Because maybe at one point you were selling services to bakers, baking operators, right? Maybe they're in the restaurant industry. Maybe you used to be in that industry selling services. So you're able to leverage past experience, past relationships with the Dream 100 approach, as long as you do the research and you are clear of who's who and what industry they're in. Because you will need to brush up on your skills and your knowledge base, because they're going to expect you to know about their industry if that conversation progresses quickly. And conversations can happen. Like sometimes when people are doing their outreach, in their mind, they're thinking, all right, I'm going to make 10 appointments. My appointment's going to be over a course of 2 weeks, and I have enough time. You really don't. Because if I have a streak of 3 great conversations, and let's say my conversation lasts 15 minutes, I get through phase 1 and a part of phase 2. I have enough notes on my sheet when I have the actual meeting for that 15, 20-minute mark. I can pick up where we left off with my notes, cover fill any gaps, and then get into phase 3 and 4. Right? But if you think that you're just going to set up appointments and move on to the next, maybe that's what you want, or maybe that's what you don't, you expect, but it could vary. You might get into a 25-minute conversation and just be on phase 1, right? But you put the work in already, so when you continue the conversation, you're picking up where you left off. You also, as you are starting to put your Dream 100 list together, based on those industries, you want to do just a Google search on maybe what products are out there or the trends, right? Or like, let's say, for example, one Google search that's never failed me was how to grow, insert your industry to get new customers, right? What products can I use for my tree service company to get new customers? And maybe like something with Facebook shows up, maybe something with a software shows up, maybe Nextdoor advertisement shows up. There's a bunch of different things that could pop up, but now you're aware. And because you put the industry in it and that search term, it's showing those advertisements as if you were that business type, positioning it to you, right? And maybe one's for like an AI chat widget, right? Like what you offer. Maybe one is for ads. Are you looking to grow your tree service business? Did you know that calls go unanswered and website visitors never take more than 5 minutes to learn about a business, right? Right. And you start to now understand that talk track. So in your phase, you are developing industry knowledge and talk track to have an educated conversation or give educated advice. Because how embarrassing could it be that you claim to be a trusted business advisor, you claim to know the industry, and then when someone asks you a question about the industry, about the trends, about what you're seeing in the market, you freeze. So be ahead of the game. Be ahead of the game of what to expect. And then tailoring that pitch, right, to specific needs and challenges is important. Like our job as AI reception service providers, as trusted advisors, as industry experts that serve with our white label platform, we need to know what the pain points of these business owners are. And if you don't know what their pain points are, well, then how in the golly gosh are you going to serve them? So there is some initial investment you need to do with time, knowledge, practice. So when you do have the opportunity to speak to that busy tree service owner that has 15 trucks on the road, that does $10 million a year, that by chance was referred to you by someone you helped out, that you randomly met on social media, or that randomly found your business card at the post office or whatever, however they found you, then you better know enough of where to find those answers quick, or at least be prepared. And that comes with practice and the reps. if you're finding this to be a refresher, let me know. Is this stuff that maybe you already know, but it's just refreshing your memory? Maybe it's just bringing it top of mind again. Let me know if it's a refresh. Is this something that's new to you? Is this brand new to you? Have you never been in sales before? Are you embarking on this new challenge that you're on now to open up new ways of doing business? And one of them is positioning yourself as the expert and offering a service. Let me know how you feel about that. Because there's so many ways to really like position yourself and strategize and build that authority from those that don't know you. So many different ways. Some people do it like in today's age, they're doing it with social media video. How many of you have seen social media video content with somebody that may not be famous, right? But they represent themselves well with helpful information, right? And because you see their content or their posts or their videos, you start to get that attachment to their page. Like, oh, this guy's got some good information. Or this gal's got some good information. I used it. It works for me. I'm going to stay following them. And they may not know you, but the value that you bring puts you on their radar, right? And that's based off of social media content, right? And that's the new way of meeting people, right? It's all about how you deliver the content, how you give the value. And the Dream 100 that you establish may be from people that have sent you messages, that have connected with you on LinkedIn, that were maybe at previous employers that you worked for or worked with. So there's a lot of different ways to put this list together. And then at that point, remix it. At that point, add some more flavor to it. At that point, maybe customize that conversation to be more valuable to them. And I appreciate, everyone's responses here, because a lot of it, I mean, if you're in this challenge, right, you're a little bit different than maybe the average person that wants to get into software or get into entrepreneurship, right? Because this challenge requires time, effort, and engagement, right? So I expect you to know a good portion of what I'm going over. But as a student myself, I have stacks of books. I have channels I subscribe to. I know it in the back of my mind, but when I watch, I hear, or I read something, it goes from the back to the front and it amplifies. So I'm hoping this amplifies what you may already know. And that's the magic of a challenge like this. So as we're moving on here, we've covered some initial information gathering from our phone contacts, our social media platforms, our relationships. We categorize them by industry, right? Maybe by title. We've done a little bit of research around the industry. We at least know what to look up when we're approached with questions. We know what our Google prompts are to find out. We know, how to grow my industry, insert industry here to get new customers. Whatever we use, we want to just see other vendors and what they're saying, right? And we know what kind of questions to ask to uncover where they're at in their business or what they're looking to do, right? And that's all important because now, as you're doing more personalized research on maybe their website, whether they're a franchise, an independently owned business, or a mobile business, you're going to start to now be aware of what others have and what your prospect or potential appointment doesn't have. Right? So if we go on Google and we type in food trucks near me, and we see that, the 3 food trucks that pop up all have websites, but the 4th one, 5th one, 6th one do not. And the prospect that we're going to meet with is one of them that does not have a website. Well, that's one area of opportunity right then and there, right? So now we need to uncover, if they don't have a website, how are they building new customers? How are they building new relationships? Maybe it's through another form. It could be through, maybe another lead source. Maybe it's a directory website. Maybe it's through Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever. We need to know where those conversations are starting and being had. And then we can understand from there on, how do we add AI to it with our white label platform to centralize it in one area and then to do the question asking and answering for it. And now we've pretty much, with our experience, brought up some questions that we can ask. So let's say with this food truck appointment that I have, and I say, Jane, I noticed that you don't have a website for the food truck business, but when we last spoke, you guys are just always busy. How are people finding out about your amazing food? And that's where that question will then give me the answer from her. She says, maybe, oh, we use TikTok. Everything's from TikTok. TikTok's been blowing our business up. So in your mind, now you understand that's their trusted source of conversations. What is that TikTok connected to? Is it connected to the phone, to one person's phone, to all the phones? And then how do they go about when they're busy at a fair, at an event? How do they go about answering those questions during the event hours or after hours? Right? So like, what if you're at a big event? What if this appointment that I'm taking, the food truck business, is at a big event for 4 days? Let's say it's a carnival, 4-day carnival. A couple thousand people are expected there. And after that carnival, they have nowhere else to go. Their calendar is free of bookings. So ideally, the event's only for 4 days. At some point, they need to get new business. Well, we can add this AI reception feature to their TikTok, to the conversations within your white label software. So while they're at the event, they can put out content around, we offer this, we offer that, we're here now, try out our food. If you have an upcoming event, we'd love to be there. If you're looking for corporate food truck services, we offer that. And as you're putting this content from where they're at for the last 4 days, they're also able to attract new potential customers and use the AI chat widget to communicate on their behalf, whether it's gathering information, booking an appointment, pushing them to a landing page or a link or some sort of a link page with information. Whatever the end result is, it doesn't matter, but the conversation to be had is what's the most important. In that example, would you agree that that would be a great point to make, or a great example or story to tell to that food truck owner during our appointment? Because again, not everybody has the same knowledge and experience, and they may not see it the same way. So it's important to show their current state, the potential state if they don't do anything different, and then the end result state if they do something, the positive impact it will have. Right? And that only comes from experience or following examples or other success stories from other businesses that are using features like the AI reception tool. Right? Like, you gotta, ideally you want your own stories, right? But if you're new at this, you're not going to have your own stories. So the best way to get more stories is look at what others are doing and formulate examples. I'm not saying to lie about a story. I'm saying formulate an example using the source that you got it from. Look, as part of my job, I'm always researching ways to help food truck businesses be the best in their local areas. And depending if you're looking to focus on corporate services or birthday parties or street fairs, I've noticed these ways that food truck companies are really leveraging technology. And one is, let me tell you a quick story. One that I learned from was they were at a carnival for 5 days. Their schedule was empty. They added the AI reception feature to their schedule, to their chat. They were posting videos and content where they were at. It built their authority, it built their branding, it built their energy and what they do best. And folks started reaching out to them while they were at the carnival to learn about pricing and how it worked. And that's how that company in that example ended up booking more appointments while they were already at a busy event. Would you be interested in doing that too, or having that opportunity? And of course they're going to say yes. Of course they're going to say yes. So knowing your stuff of an industry matters and making it easy to understand. And like there's a question here. So if a client doesn't have a website but has Facebook or Instagram, yes. So if they don't have a website, you can activate there. So with the live AI chat, there's a couple of different ways you can connect it. Connect it through social media, through SMS, through email, through web chat. You can turn all of them on or off. There are different fees and features and settings you have to do to, yeah, right. You have to obviously connect your social media for it to work. You have to obviously have your SMS enabled if you want that feature. So yes, you have many options to turn on and off as you wish. Okay. So, if you remember, from day one, when we talked about, and we talked about a little bit in day two, the gateway offer, the core offer, and the expansion offer, right? You may find that you started with the gateway offer, which is the AI receptionist, and you immediately went to expansion because they don't have a website, they don't have social media. That's exactly what they needed, what they wanted. You reached out to them at the right time, and they loved what your gateway offer is, right? And they don't know what a gateway offer is. They don't know what a core offer is. They don't know what an expansion offer is. I'm using it that way amongst us in our learning environment. But at the end of the day, they want products and they don't care how they get them. They just want to make sure they're going to work for them and that one person can do it. So you're going to notice that you'll almost sometimes get a little overwhelmed with like, oh my gosh, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need that. And you might say, well, let's slow down a bit. Let's do this first because everything, obviously we want to make sure it all works right. Let's get this up and then we'll do this and then we'll do that. And that's how that relationship evolves into an expansion offer. So I share all that because you're going to come across like questions, like this. Does this integrate with this? Does this integrate with that? Can we offer this? What if they want that? That's the power of knowing your white label solution and then knowing your industries. Now, as you work through your Dream 100 list or your Dream 25 or your Dream 50, whatever the number of contacts you have, let's say you exhaust them. Well, you have to start building additional new relationships. So those new relationships can come in forms of social media, text, in-person networking events, referrals, whatever the case may be. Again, same format, categorize them by name, industry, relationship start date, right? Knowing when you met them and how you met them would be nice to add on there because you really don't have any true substantive relationship with them yet. And then connecting with them on social media, maybe liking and commenting on some of their posts will fast track that a bit because that's how people expect to meet people these days. And then you can start to send out a personalized message based on research. And then you may get a response right away, you may not. That's why it is a consistent game of keeping new people top of mind in your list. Because the last thing you want to do is message somebody 5, 6, 7 times. Hey, did you get my message? Hey, I didn't hear from you. Oh, by the way, I did some more research. Like in 1 week, you got 5 messages. They're going to block you. So nurture those relationships with time in mind. And then as you get those responses back, you'll be able to focus on which parts of the relationship you're going to build upon. So like, let's say, for example, I connected with a handful of people and I'm noticing that one of my contacts on my new Dream 100 list posted on social media that they're going to be at so-and-so health fair. And then another one shared that they were at a trade show. And then another one shared that they just bought another new truck. That's enough talking point and reason to say, hey, congratulations on the new truck. Love the color. Are you thinking of a new brand, or are you going to keep things as is for this new edition? And that just gets them to respond back. Like maybe they didn't think about switching the brand. Maybe they don't even have branding in place. Maybe the person you reached out to at the trade show, you say, oh my goodness, love that picture, man. You can see the excitement in your face. How's the event? Right? And now they respond back. Maybe it's 10 hours later, maybe it's 3 days later, but they see it. They see it. And that's what stays in the back of their mind. And then when you follow up or you like or comment, you start to go into the middle of their mind and the front of their mind. And then they feel obligated to at least respond back with an apology of, sorry, been super busy. Sorry, your message was in spam. Right? But if you get blocked, well, then they don't want to talk to you, obviously. They blocked you. Right? So you have to take these cues and these examples and use them as KPIs and guardrails of where and how you meet people. Right? And then as you start to meet these new folks, they express interest in you and you express interest in their business goals. Because like we spoke about before, no one's going to share anything about themselves personally that's valuable to them unless they know, like, or trust you. So this is where you really need to hone in on those skills of active listening, taking visual notes on facial expressions, body language, delays in response, short answers, and it's okay to move on. Don't harp on just one person or a series of people if you're not jiving with them or they're not jiving with you, because they're not going to do business with you. And I'm not saying don't give them a chance, don't follow up, or I'm just saying, follow a little bit of your experience and intuition and the visible signs, because it may come off that you're too pushy and then you really don't have a chance. If you find that to be valuable advice, if maybe you have a way that you use, a certain style as a barometer on, how do I really determine if this person cares to talk, or how do I know they're giving me the cold shoulder or not, or this is what I typically look for when meeting somebody new in this type of environment. Like share your best experiences or best practice if you have those available to do so, right? Because my way is just one way. There are many other styles, stories, and examples that we could be working off of. And as I mentioned, throughout the presentation, active listening is important, right? There's courses on active listening. There's best practices on active listening, right? And it all has to do with asking open-ended questions that they respond to and you take notes. And maybe you're not taking notes on everything. Maybe you're taking notes on some things and memorizing the rest. That's fine, because the last thing you want to do is look like you're not paying attention, right? And you're just taking notes, or you're trying to look busy. And maybe you're not trying to, you're just genuinely taking notes, but the perception of the person on the other end is, all right, this guy's trying too hard. Or, all right, not everything I'm saying is important. Like, give me some eye contact, right? And people, like, everyone's different, especially in different parts of the world. Different business classes, different business people. So again, this isn't a crash course on how to do, active listening. It's more of a guideline. And as you are actively listening, you're understanding, you're picking up on previous conversation experiences you had. You're sharing that wisdom, those experiences. You're able to adapt to that conversation. You're able to open their mind and get their input. That's powerful. And you're able to give input. Even more powerful. And at the end of the day, the goal here is, because you're listening, because you're following the mentioning of what they last said genuinely, in a relevant way, you're building more trust and rapport because you're attentive to the conversation. And all of that matters, especially as you get into medium to high ticket offers, right? And overall, like that's our goal, right? Is to have a quality relationship, business relationship, where what we're billing them, what we're providing them is worth every dollar. They're happy, we're happy. Both of our businesses are growing. Very important. And this is pretty self-explanatory. And we kind of covered this in our different examples. But I'll sum all of these bullet points up is be human, be kind, be thoughtful, and treat others how you would want to be treated. And you should be just fine. Right? And you might have to check yourself, check up from the neck up, because if you're playful, don't be playful, right? You'll have to, take your social cues and your social personalities and modify them a bit for the business setting, right? Because not everybody has the same humor as you or the same interests, whether it's political, personal, sports. Try to play, like a colleague of mine always says, play Switzerland, right? Be in the middle, right? Be negotiable, be easy to understand, be easy to conversate with. That is the core of building upon the time you put for this Dream 100 build out, especially with new people that you're adding. And as we reverse engineer this, right, we went from building the list to now researching the list. How do we add more new people to the list when we exhaust it? The next step, here are some examples. And we created these examples with Messenger in mind, WhatsApp in mind, SMS in mind. Short questions, comments, right? Conversation starters. Because not everybody wants a long-tailed email in their box from somebody they don't really know that well or haven't talked to in a long time. So these are a couple different ways that you can leverage Messenger, WhatsApp, SMS, or even just a walk by, stop by to share what you've come across and what you found interesting, and then pivot into how we could potentially, do something together that could, positively impact your business and mine, right? Because I'm just getting started on my stuff. And I love your experience and your insight because you clearly have a great business in play now. You're doing amazing things. So I would love to get your input. And it's all about how you position it. And then as you get that response from that initial outreach, then you can go a little bit more in depth. And again, like we spoke about before, this is a guide, right? This is a guide. It has to be relevant to your story, to who you are, to what your plans are. For example, maybe you have an existing business and now you're just adding the AI reception as a new service, right? So maybe you say, hey, look, hey Jane, I've been in, as you know, I've been in the marketing space for the last 25 years, primarily helping folks like yourself and others with print media, magazine, whatever the case may be. And most recently, in the last couple of months, we've delved into a whole new offering that I would love your feedback on because you were a past, somebody I worked with or talked to in the past or whatever the case may be. Insert that relationship, right? Or insert the reason to establish a relationship. And I'd love for you to see it for yourself and give me some honest feedback on your thoughts. Would this be something you would consider if it fit the budget and it solved the problems that you may not be aware of or that you're dealing with now? Right. And you tweak this so that way it's not a long essay here. It's digestible. It's easily could be right on the phone, right above the fold. right? So when you have the phone, if you have to do more than one scroll, it's too much, right? You want to just the thumb goes up once, that's it. But if you got to go twice, it's like, whoa, this is too long to read right now. I'm busy. So take away that objection of it being too much to consume. And then you'll start to get really comfortable in this process. And, by a show of feedback here, how many of you are comfortable with reaching out to somebody on the phone that you haven't spoken to in a while? How many of you are comfortable with reaching out to somebody by phone that you have not spoken to in a while? And that person you're going to call, your goal is to rekindle a conversation or a relationship to maybe, see where they fit into your beta or to your offering, right? And there's a few folks here that are sharing some, right? Cheryl, me, Jojo, yep, Masha, Gary, Larry, like everyone's got this superpower that we don't realize it till others bring it to our attention, right? Some people are just natural gift to gab, natural people, talkers, natural virtual facilitators. Others just get stressed out about it. They freeze, they're unsure, it's uncomfortable. The best part of the economy we live in now is as digital citizens, all we need to do is be aware of where we can improve and leverage where we're great at. And if we leverage where we're great at, we can always build upon those phone calls or the writing or the in-person follows, whatever we decide that we need help with, we can improve upon that over time. But right now, with the way that we're set up, we have options. So don't let one thing hold you back, but also don't ignore it 100% either. And here's an example of how you reach out on the phone. And again, this happens through practice. Maybe you print out some bullet points on a piece of paper. You work off of that short bullet points with the intention of remixing or personalizing as you go. But don't read it like a script. Hi, John. How's everything going? I've been really excited about this new venture I've been working on, and I wanted to give you a call. Right? You have to consider the gaps of when they talk, you talk. Right? And there's great videos online. There's great sales trainers. There's great free resources out there of examples. And just think about how you get approached by the phone in your region, your country, where you're located. What makes you cringe most likely will make others cringe. So stay away from that. And again, as we start to build up these preliminary relationships with our list, our follow-ups, our different ways of engaging, people start responding back and they randomly ask you questions. They randomly ask you for advice. Because if you're in their cell phone as a contact, you are somebody that's worth their time. And in most cases, they will add you as your name and put marketing. They'll add you as your name and put techie. They'll add you as your name and put website builder or website marketer or something with what you do. And they'll know how you can help them. And really, the follow-up becomes a byproduct of just having good conversations. You look forward to the follow-up. The follow-up does not feel like you're chasing a bag. It feels like you're just building upon where you left off. And when you'll notice really quick, once you have 10, 15, 20 open relationships, it is a lot to manage. So you really have to block out time to do your follow-up. That's a good problem to start to have. And there's a lot of people that enjoy phone call follow-ups, others that enjoy email follow-ups, others that enjoy messenger follow-ups. But if you don't follow up, you're not going to get any response. And as we've been building upon this, and all of y'all have been sharing your feedbacks and where you're comfortable and in your, your experiences, you start to really understand here that everyone's a little different, and that's fine. And the overall goal here is to prioritize the people that need the most help based on what you know about them, do enough due diligence and research so that way you're able to give quality advice and accurate advice, and build genuine connections that could be considered friendships, where if they can reach out to you at 9 o'clock at night, it's not awkward. And if you reach out to them on a Saturday morning, they're not ignoring you. And those are great KPIs and ways to kind of track where you're at in the friendship. And if they're starting to send you gifts and memes, then you're really beyond that regular business friendship. And it's going to happen. They're going to send you memes. They're going to send you social media shares. They're going to ask you, hey, have you read this book? Or what do you think? And you might say, oh my gosh, this person keeps messaging me and we haven't even done business together. That's your cue to reposition yourself and bring to what you've shared before from the back of the mind to the front of the mind. Because whether they realize it or not, you're top of mind to them, and they want to know how you can help them, and they're finding ways by what they do and say to you to see where you fit in. And without getting into the whole psychological approach of sales and how the brain works and all that, like I don't even know all that, right? I just know if I'm a good human being, I have some good humor, I have some good intention, I believe in my product, I believe in the company I'm with, I believe in that what I'm going to give to them is fair market value, I will do just fine. There's no sales book or no sales process that will prove me otherwise if I can't just be me first, right? And that's our goal. Be you first and then build upon it. And then as you're doing this one-to-one, you're going to start to evolve into one-to-many. So, without getting too deep in the weeds here, we're going to start wrapping this up here. This one-to-many approach is with virtual networking events. Most of these organizations here, all of them offer an online version of networking. They also offer an in-person version of networking, right? And that's just a professional way of saying it's an arranged way of meeting like-minded professionals in your area, right? Take advantage of that. And there are other forms of networking. And I gave you some of these examples in my stories, in previous ways of meeting people, from the local chamber to the professional meetup groups to university alumni events, local business events, trade show and expos. Sky's the limit. Really what you're balancing is time, and the audience you want to serve. Because a lot of these events can be based off of size of business, industry of business, or what their business consists of or wants to, or what is evolving to. So there's so many different ways. What you experience at a university or college alumni event, yes, it's networking, is totally different than what you experience at the local chamber of commerce on a Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. And both of those are way different than what you experience at a 3-day conference in a big metro city for an industry specific event. All different. So you do have to pick wisely and strategize what your end result and goal is. And there are several ways to find these events. And this is the clear path of how to do it. No secret around it. It's just easily accessible for you. Obviously, everything is city region specific. Power of using the Google search engine, plug in some of these keywords, and then you'll have to do some research. Maybe Eventbrite pops up and you click on the events. Maybe Meetup pops up, you click on the events. Maybe the Facebook events page pops up. Some events require a fee. Some events require previous registration. Others are exclusive for members only. So definitely read through the About section and the description, because it'll really, save you time if travel is required and then, you be turned away. And then as we get through this process, they say yes to seeing the demo of what you offer, what you do. Everything that I went over, from the conversation bridging the gap to the Dream 100 research, to filling the tank with new potential contacts, to the talk track from phone, email, text, in person, to networking events. All of that is designed to get you some time to walk through your superpower of your AI reception tool, the potential of your expansion offerings, and the benefit of doing business with you, your team, and your white label software, whatever you decide to call it, right? But they're not coming for the software, they're coming for you. So everything you've done has been done so to give you the authority, experience, and the credibility that you're worth the time and that you can be trusted. And then now, with everything you've learned and how you're doing it and the experience you've had, you're able to tailor the AI reception chat to their business. To their business. And that's the power. Because if I'm a pet groomer, I don't care how the AI reception tool could be worked for a food truck, or that you serve a whole bunch of chiropractors. I care on how it helps my business and my business type. So you have to be familiar on what's important to those businesses, and with the information you have, you customize an amazing demo. And it's not long-winded, it's direct, but it's in the questions and the answers you provide to the AI chat reception tool that will show them that experience when they ask those questions, right? So having some questions relevant to their industry, some of their talking points to their website is important. So that way, when you put that prompt in with them on the demo, they see, aha, that's what that does. Oh, I didn't know that was available. And then you're able to walk through it, help them understand it, see the value, understand that this is easier than they actually think that it could potentially be, that there's a true monetization that they could receive from doing and using something like this. And all done by storytelling, by painting the vision of success. And now, because you've done everything that we've went over, you're using all of that information from all the different conversations, the rapport, the trust, and you're able to address concerns directly with them, and you're able to encourage interaction, go back and forth as needed, because you are comfortable and confident that you have the source and the knowledge to help their business grow. And that's typically like what holds people up, is the doubt. I don't know if this could actually help them. I mean, it sounds cool, it looks cool, but I don't want to put my reputation on the line if this can't work. So until you really have these good conversations, you're not going to believe in it. So you got to start there, outside of practicing and using it yourself. And now you're able to grab feedback. You're able to take maybe a 1-month conversation or relationship that didn't go anywhere, and really look back and watch maybe what were some of the clues that you might have missed. Maybe you didn't share enough knowledge or experience or need for it. And it doesn't you don't get to find that out right then and there. It takes a couple of times looking back. So leveraging your past experience is always important. Never take a no or a not interested as you or your product is not worthy. Take it as it's not part of their time schedule at the moment. They're not ready for what was about to happen for their business with you. It's a privilege to work with someone like yourself with a product like this, especially in the early stages of you launching it, because this is where you're going to give the most attention and time. This is where you're going to go the extra mile. Because as you grow this offering, maybe you bring on some staff, some contractors, and then you're removed from the process And because you're removed from that process, they don't get to experience you as that human being. And that could be the glue that keeps everything together. So look, if you've been rocking along with me, let me know in the chat, how do you feel about what I've shared with you? Right? How do you feel about what I've shared? Whether it's like the folks here that have shared that, oh, this is a good refresher. No, it was good. It was all right. I feel like I wish we could have had more. Or, I never thought of it like that. This is new to me. I like your approach. Still need to learn a little bit more. Whatever your comments, your feedback are, share it. Because it's not just helping me, it's helping those that are tuned in. It's helping others that maybe have the fear of rejection, uncertainty. Maybe they're not tech savvy, but they're challenging themselves to get into tech. And this is their entry point, right? Or maybe you were like, man, this challenge wasn't what I expected, but I got great nuggets out of it. Or this is exactly what I wished for. And it finally became available. And if you're one of the folks that maybe jumped in the middle or today for the first time, we have a courtesy to you that you can get your 30-day free trial of High Level. So that way you could experience what we've talked about in the last couple of days and what we're going to talk about tomorrow and Friday. But the software is required to use it. And for our existing customers, although we don't have anything in addition outside of our snapshot and what we've put together, we hope that this helps enable and maybe look at things a little bit of a different way. Maybe you add this as a new offering, or maybe you modify some of the ways you're offering it now. But consuming knowledge within an industry, within a product suite, within way people do business is so important, whether it's through FAQs, challenges, videos. You got to stay up to snuff because technology is always changing and so are approaches. So I appreciate you hanging out here. Homework, right? So this is a challenge with the goal of you getting your first paying customer, with the goal of you getting uncomfortable and getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So today's homework, right? It's ultimately up to you to do it, right? And maybe you're not all about homework. Maybe like, I'm not doing homework. Like, I'm not doing that. That's fine. But this is designed to get the brain processing what needs to be done so it establishes the muscle memory, right? So if you never get running, you're never going to maintain your breathing. You're never going to maintain your health, right? The distance that you go. This is going to help you start to establish that habit of prospecting. And although the word prospecting could sound very like, oh man, I got to do this. I didn't know this was part of the challenge. No, it's about building new relationships, right? So we just changed the word from prospecting to making business owner friends. From prospecting to building new relationships or finding people that need help that don't know where to find it. From prospecting to being known as the person that can help so-and-so industry overcome so-and-so pain with your custom AI reception tool, right? So however you word it, you still got to meet people and learn about them and let them know your story as much as you're learning theirs. And this exercise will help you tremendously, right? You have a choice of picking up the phone, that's on you. You want to do Messenger, that's on you. WhatsApp, on you. Networking events, on you. Door-to-door, on you. Referrals only, your exclusive relationships, on you. But do something. Because without the people to get to know you or trust you, you just have the software sitting there. We want to get you into work mode, action taking, right? If you're ready to take some action today, based on what you've learned, let me know you're ready to take action. Throw in the chat action, right? Because if you don't put it out there that you're going to take action, it's just going to be something you put on your desk or you say, I'll get to later. Take action today, whether it's 5 contacts, 50 or 100. Build them out, follow the assignment, and share your success in our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is rocking right now. New faces showing up. New introductions showing up. People sharing advice. right? Our members in that Facebook group, you would think they work with high level. They're so engaged, they're so helpful, they're so giving, whether they've been a user for months, years, or day one, or just started last week. They're sharing their knowledge, and we're asking you to do the same thing. Take action, share knowledge, and if you're having a struggling time getting this working, you're losing hope, you're unsure, you're talking yourself out of it, you need a little bit of one-to-one assistance, you're looking for some support of knowing how to make this work or maybe make some adjustments, use our service. Speak with .us/success gets you to a trained professional that'll walk you through what you need to. They'll listen to you, whether it's on chat, Zoom, get you going. They will help you out. Okay? And at the end of the day, it really just comes down to you and I here giving you a little bit of knowledge and experience, you giving me your feedback, and we just build upon this every day, right? It's already Wednesday. Time is flying. I'm hoping by now you've joined the Facebook group. If you haven't yet, get in there. I'm hoping by now you've introduced yourself in the group. If you haven't yet, please do it today. If you haven't made a few comments, please comment on a few posts. At the very least, like a few posts. Let people know that you're there. Because I promise you, they'll click on your profile and they'll reach out to you, right? And this is the practice of meeting new people. Whether you're introvert, extrovert, meeting people is human. And we have to be human when we're in sales. Y'all have been great. It's been an amazing time hanging out with you all. We went over a little bit on time, but it was well worth it. Because when we get into lessons like this, you have to just make sure we're not speeding through it to the point where we're missing out. But as always, keep sharing your success stories. Keep joining us, and we got more to come. Have a great afternoon, morning, evening, night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.